Good morning. Today I am Tavion Simmons here today with Mr. Eric Gordon, the Chief Executive Officers of Cleveland Metro School District. Hi, Mr. Gordon. Thank you for taking time today to talk with us.
Thank you for having me. Oh, I'm supposed to share the mic, right?
Thank you for having me.
What is your role as CEO of Cleveland Metro School District?
So I would describe my role as essentially being the principal of all the principals. So I'm in charge of making sure everything in every one of our schools goes like it's supposed to for you, for your classmates, for your teachers, for the principals. Think of it as kind of running a city for 37,000 people. So everything that happens, running the buses, collecting the trash, cleaning the buildings, making sure you're fed, making sure you're learning. I'm responsible for figuring all of that out. I don't do it alone, but that's my job.
Thank you for your information. How did you become CEO of Cleveland Metro School District?
So I was an accident. I actually applied for the job when it became available. I went through an interview process that had multiple interviews. And after either my second or third interview, they informed me that they were going to pick another candidate and I wasn't going to be the CEO. And so later when the school board, who are my bosses, interviewed the 3 finalist candidates, they decided that they didn't want the finalist candidates and they came back and asked if I would reconsider. And that was over 10 years ago now.
Thank you. What was your life like growing up and who do you look up to?
So I grew up outside of Toledo, Ohio, which is a lot like Cleveland. I grew up in the country part, so I didn't live in the city, and we were pretty poor. And so I understand from my growing up what it's like to live in poverty, although that is different than kids in the city that live in poverty, but that's a shared experience that really informed me. I also lived with my dad, and in middle school, I got sent to Pittsburgh to live with my mom. And so then I lived in a borough, which is kind of like a suburb or a neighborhood of Pittsburgh from 7th through 12th grade. Who do I look up to? Boy, I look up to lots of people. I look up to people who I can go and talk to when I'm struggling to figure something out. So they're typically people you may not know. They're not people on TV or something like that, but they're people maybe like your mom and dad or like a good teacher that you just trust, and when you know you need help, you can go and talk to them and they'll help you think out loud. So those are the people I tend to look up to.
Thank you for your information. Why do you choose to come to Cleveland Metro School District?
So I spent my entire career, with one exception, working in cities. So I started my career in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I worked in a part of New Orleans called the Ninth Ward, which is pretty famous now because of a really awful hurricane that they had several years ago, but no one had heard of it when I moved there. Then came back and worked in Toledo. And then for a short time, I left urban education and I got to work in a really wealthy, rich school system with the students who were really privileged. They had anything they needed. They were great kids, just like you and your classmates are great kids. In fact, I still am in touch with some, but I found myself saying, you know, they're gonna be fine no matter what. And when I worked in my city school districts, I really believe, and I still believe today, that if I do my job right, your life will be better. But if I don't get my job right, you might not have the life you deserve. And that's my mission, that's what I want to do. So I came to Cleveland almost 15 years ago now. I think it's probably the last place I'll ever be. I was telling your classmates before we went on, I have a granddaughter, Nevaeh, and I have a granddaughter, Jubilee, 9 and 5. And they are part of the kids that have come into my life because of getting to work in Cleveland.
Thank you for your information. What are some of the challenges you face as CEO?
Oh, wow. You know, there are a lot of challenges. Snow days is probably the single worst. You never get it right. Should we go to school? Shouldn't we go to school? Of course, I know what kids want. It's that day off. But if you have too many days off, then you have to go in the summer, right? And so that's one that people are always critical of. I remember a Facebook posting after one snow day decision, and it said, "Eric Gordon, you're an idiot." So, you got to be able to take the criticism. Also, so there are the small things like that daily decision, but there's also the enormous responsibilities of trying to find ways to help your teachers have the tools and resources they need. And so, for example, we announced a really big program called Say Yes to Education that you may know about, and that it took us, I think, 12 years to get that in place. But that means that now your teachers have another resource if you need things that they can't help with, like healthcare, or if there's something going on at home that you need support with, or glasses or food. And then also that we can promise you that when you graduate high school, we'll send you to college. And so, my job is small stuff like making the decision at 4 in the morning about a snow day, and big stuff like getting programs in place to help you. And then, of course, over the last year with the COVID pandemic, we were both wearing our masks before we started, just trying to steer us through all of that as well, and making sure that you and your classmates and your teachers and your families were all okay.
Thank you for your information. What is your formula for success?
So my formula for success is something called assurance. Assurance, when it is at its best, means I don't believe in no-win situations. I just fundamentally don't believe in them, and so I will keep working on a problem until I find a way to solve it. So I mentioned the Say Yes program earlier. It took me 12 years to get Cleveland to buy into that program. And I think a lot of people wouldn't have stuck with it for 12 years. They would have given up and looked for something else. But I knew that if we stuck with it, we'd find a way, right? Now the problem with assurance is if you are not careful with it, it can come off as arrogant, like I know everything. And like you asked me earlier about the people I look up to, I have a whole bunch of people that I rely on to remind myself and to challenge myself that I don't know everything. That I have to keep learning. I'm 51 years old, I'm old, and I'm still learning today, right? And so I would say that, there's a lot to being successful, but I think that to me is key. If you ever get a chance to visit my office downtown, this time I came to your school, but if you ever get to visit my office downtown, you'll see a picture of a shark and that shark fin that sharks have, and it's plowing through concrete. It's going right up a street on a city street. And my wife got me that because she says it's emblematic of how I work, that nothing's going to get in my way. We're going to do what we need to do to make Cleveland successful.
Thank you for your information. What have you been your greatest achievements during your last 30 years in education?
So, at the end of the day, my biggest achievements are every year our graduations, when I get to see when you graduate and I get to be there, when your classmates do. When I came to Cleveland, the graduation rate was 52%. That means half of the kids in your class didn't graduate high school. Now the graduation rate's over 80%, which means 8 out of every 10 people graduate high school. And so, there's a lot that I'm proud of that I've done in the work, but for me at the end of the day, it's every year going to all those graduations and watching more and more kids graduate, and knowing that in some part, I had something to do with that. The other thing that I'm really excited about right now is when I first started teaching, I was a math teacher, and I learned how to teach in a kind of a problem-based way. And so this summer learning experience that you're in, and this Enrich project, journalism project, is emblematic. And remember I told you I don't quit trying until I solve a problem? Emblematic of how I've wanted to shift learning since I started teaching in 1991, before you were even born. And now it's coming to life with these 4-week projects that you're doing, and the demonstrations of learning that you're doing, and things that I was doing as a teacher back in 1991. So those are some achievements in education that I'm proud of. I'm proud of the kids that have graduated under my leadership, and I'm proud that I'm creating space for your teachers to enjoy why we all went into teaching, while giving you ways to really practice your learning in really authentic ways, instead of saying we can't do this kind of stuff because we've got to work on that test score, which is a problem particularly in city school districts across our country that I've just tried to be tackling on my own.
Thank you for your information. What do you like and dislike about being CEO of Cleveland Metro School District?
What I like, obviously, is being around our students, our scholars. I actually, when I got this invitation, I told some adults that I was supposed to be meeting with, I had to change my schedule because I was coming out to be interviewed by you. So I love the opportunity to interact with our students. What I don't like is I have lots and lots and lots of meetings, and I have to do them, but that's not the part that is joyful, right? So even when we're done here, I will go to another public event where we'll be announcing a big grant to get families connected digitally, getting internet in your home and getting, and then I'll get on a Teams meeting, and then I'll get on a Zoom meeting, much like you had school last year. I would rather be spending more time here with you and your classmates and less time doing all those meetings.
Thank you. What are some things you've learned being CEO?
So, to be CEO, you have to have a principal's license, essentially, like Mr. Tidmore, the principal here, or your summer principal here has, where it's a kind of a teacher supervisor or teacher support degree that we have to get. And for most school districts, that's sufficient. That's what a superintendent has. What I learned when I got this job, so my title, as you mentioned, is CEO or Chief Executive Officer, and when I got the job, I kind of thought, what's the difference? Well, it turns out because of how big we are, remember I told you it's like running a city for 37,000 people, I would have probably been a lot more prepared if I had had a business degree to learn how to run the business of the district, whereas what I wanted to be doing was leading the academics of the district, the learning of the district. So I've learned those skills, and I've helped us to navigate really tough budget times. I've helped us to build new school buildings like this one, but it's something that I didn't know when I started, that I learned that if somebody were to say to me, what do you need to be the superintendent of Cleveland schools, I would say, make sure you have a business degree, because it's a big, huge business to run.
Thank you. What will you do if you weren't CEO, and why?
So I've always said I want to do this job one time really well and then never again. So I've had offers to leave Cleveland to go to interview for larger cities, and there are a lot of people in my job that think that's a great thing, that you get recruited to a bigger city. I don't want to do that. I want to stay here. I want to do it to the very best of my ability, and then when I'm no longer CEO, I want to do something completely different. So I told you my background is in math. I love weather. And the science behind weather is called a vector science. And so I want to go back and study meteorology and become basically a weather person. But I don't want to be on TV. I've not been enough on TV. I actually, you may not know this, but like airports hire weather people, UPS and FedEx hire weather people, so that when weather's happening, they can divert all of those packages around the storm and stuff like that. So I can just sit in a cube by myself and play with weather all the time. That's what I want to do next.
Thank you. This was CMSD first year with the summer offering the summer learning experience. What are some positive things happening in the summer learning experience?
So I'm really excited about the summer learning experience. First positive thing is over 8,400 students, including you and your classmates, came back to school. And we need to get back in school. We need to be with our friends and making new friends and that sort of thing. Second is these kinds of demonstrations of learning like you're doing right now in this journalism program. We had over 100 ideas come from our teachers about programs that they wanted to run and work on to create projects for you and your classmates to work on over this 4-week period that we call Enrich. And then all of the ways that the afternoon engagement has come together, the camps and the activities, I think all of that is really exciting too. I think the most exciting thing for me though is that we have shown to our parents and to our teachers the opportunity that we can take these kinds of things and continue them into the school year, and that learning can be joyful and adventurous. It doesn't have to be sit at your desk, be bored, be quiet. And that's true for teachers too. You know, we want it to be exciting and fun, and I hope we've created a space where our teachers can feel the support to have fun teaching in these kinds of ways, and knowing that I trust that when we do that, and when we do things like this, when you sit down for your reading test and your writing test, you're gonna be a better reader and writer because you practiced it in real life, as opposed to you'll be a better reader and writer because you filled out a worksheet. So I'm excited about what it's symbolizing for us as we go into next year.
Thank you. Thank you. With the new school year approaching, what can parents and students expect school to look like in the fall?
So first of all, one big change is that we have introduced a new set of dress code expectations. So you'll be able to wear that outfit to school. You won't have to wear your uniform anymore because it meets all of the expectations that we have. And so that means that you'll have more flexibility about what you can wear. You can be more comfortable, you can be more relaxed, and your teachers won't have to be picking on you because you're not in dress code, right? So I think everybody's gonna be excited, and part of summer learning showed us is given the opportunity to dress appropriately, you all do. Everyone in your class is dressed fine, right? And your teacher hasn't had to pick at you and say, you're not allowed to wear that, you can't. So that's a big change that I'm super excited about for you. Also some big changes, you will have a full-time health professional, a nurse in every school. We've not had that before. So if you're not feeling well, there will be somebody to take care of you, which I'm really excited about. In our pre-K-8 schools, we're adding more art classes, music classes, phys ed classes. You'll be able to come to school either early or stay late so that you can maybe learn to play an instrument or maybe join a fitness club or things that you're interested in. We're gonna have activity buses so that you can get on a bus to get to school early or get home later so that you can experience that stuff. We're also gonna start converting all of the old libraries into cyber cafes, essentially. Community college and career hubs where all of the activities at school are available to you, and they'll be open before or after school. They'll be open during the school day, during lunchtime. So lots of new things coming that we're phasing in this year and then into the next year as well. And again, all of it is trying to show you and your mom and dad and your teachers that, yeah, we were already improving as a school district before we went into the pandemic, but we're stronger coming out of it. I want you to look at your school and say, I get everything that I know the people in the suburbs get. And so I'm really working hard to find ways to do that.
Thank you. Where can parents and students go for more information on CMSD?
That's a great journalism question. So the single best place is clevelandmetroschools.org, our website. And when you go on our website, you can click on a button, and that button will take you right to the back to school page and has all of this information and more. Also, people can call the district. Our number is 838-0000. Super easy to remember, 838-4 zeros, and then we'll connect people through. Obviously, our social media, and download our app, and you can have us anywhere, anytime on your smartphones too.
Thank you. Thank you again for being here today and providing us with an inside look into what it takes to run our school district.
Thank you.
You're welcome.